Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. This one, episode number 58. Thanks once again to our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction for sponsoring our podcast.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. Level, what's good, man?
Two things. One, we gotta do something other than just like counting these off. We just need to, like, I don't know, because at some point it's just like the number just becomes like, cumbersome.
Okay. We all get older day by day. The podcast does.
Yeah, but this is like weekly, so it's like aging quickly. It's like, oh man, hold on. Yeah,
That's true.
I mean, I hope our sweet little podcast here gets to be like the longest living, ever. But
That'd be fun.
Yeah, anyway, we're 58 years old rather quickly. Holy cow.
Yeah.
No, man, all is good. I love me some winning. And over the weekend, the Red Raiders punched their ticket to get to extend their season, which is, just means so much, other than, obviously getting to play in a bowl game. There's just so many things about that for your program that, that needs to be the standard. I think Joey kind of said as much after the game, that's the floor as bowl eligibility. And it hasn't been what you to be. You were hoping that you're still in contention for a spot in Arlington with going to Austin on Friday night. But anyway, I was just from 1-3 and then 3-5 to 6-5. So giddy up, man. And I thought UCF was pretty salty in certain spots, and yet you just were a little bit better than they were. Yeah,
definitely on Saturday night you were, and that's what matters. You're able to get the win. Joey moves to 10-3 in home games. And that's something we haven't talked about a ton, but there was a stretch there where you, quite frankly, lost your home field advantage at Jones Stadium, or it wasn't what we were used to prior. And there were a lot of seasons where you went 3-3 or 4-3 or close to 500 at home. And these last two seasons, you really picked that home field advantage back up, and that matters, Level, because you're winning in front of your fans, and you get that fun experience back, and it kind of reflected with 5 sellouts out of your 6 games this year too. So I think that's something that is vital in terms of setting that baseline for making a bowl game, but also setting that baseline that your home crowd advantage is back, and you win those games in front of the home crowd. So while it was another close one against UCF, you got it done and get that, I guess, that monkey off the back of getting to the bowl game. But man, there's a lot of different ways to dissect that one. Where you want to start? Offense, defense, Behren Morton, Tahj Brooks, big stops for your defense. There's a lot of different places to go to, though.
I'm going to start with, it's easy to talk about Behren or Tahj, but how about like Gino Garcia with a 51-yarder? How about Duda Banks that essentially should get credited for your one turnover, traditional turnover, I should say, and then for blocking the extra point.
Yep.
It's just guys like that because those, two of those plays I just thought your special teams, other than the fake field goal, your special teams dominated this game in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
You had a big return by Dre McCray. It's fun to see him kind of come on this season, not just a weapon at kickoff return, but he finds his way into the end zone. He's such a good kid and loves being here. And it's fun to he's grinded. It hasn't been easy for him as he transitions from Austin P to kind of the Power 5 level. But I think, he's starting to show you some of the playmaking, and you'll get him back next year as well. But I just Duda Banks is what's right about this program, in that Jalen Hutchings goes down, and and I think there was some initial concern that it was really bad. I mean, watching Tony Bradford out there on a knee with the doctors around him, I'm like, man, not like this.
Yeah.
Please don't, not this way. Rabbit was already on the bike and all those things, but I just thought, like, Duda stepped up, man, and he in Jalen's absence, and I mean, had one of the more memorable games, and he doesn't show up just all over the stat sheet, but those were two very impactful plays, and you can make the argument that one of them won the game. And it was just fun to see him kind of talk about it after the game was over too, and that almost saying, man, I owed it to Jalen. Because, I mean, Joey, you heard that in our conversation with Coach McGuire in our pregame show, Choice on the Broadcast.
Yeah.
Joey, basically saying to the young guys, it is your responsibility to make sure that the older guys go out the right way. And Duda did that. I mean, and so that's a lot of fun to kind of see it come full circle like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, because in a 1-point game, and we've talked about this so many times, early in the season, it was margin on the wrong side. The margin for error is so thin. But those little things, and those were two big things from Duda Banks, but the little things, the knocking down a 51-yard field goal, all of those things you've done, a lot of times the special teams can be the tipping point in your one possession game, and that's exactly what we saw yesterday for the Red Raiders. But man, Behren Morton, that guy looks a little different when he feels good and is healthy. I still don't know if he's at 100%, but he sure looked the closest to it that we've seen this season.
Yeah, and he's not gonna. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get into it until after this season is over, and I don't know. Maybe you get some more inclination before the bowl game. A few weeks downtime for him would be good if he can get it, depending on when your bowl game would be. But he's just grinding through it right now, and I thought, I thought him on the run last night, his ability to extend plays with his legs was a huge difference. I mean, obviously Plumlee on the other side was just a pain to deal with.
Yep. All
night with his legs and jump passes and the speed he's got around him. I mean, all those kinds of things. But I thought Behren kind of grinded away at it, and there was some big plays. But yeah, the plays to Dre McCray and Mason Tharp when he's rolling right, really, were one of the differences in this one too. And his ability to check to the run and keep it in a pass, or however they were doing it, I thought as the game went along also was a big deal, because it was pretty clear that UCF's, early on anyway, their intent was to not let Tahj Brooks get going. So you threw it a little bit, and then late, once you score on them enough, then it's like, just because, I mean, 5 minutes, 30 seconds left on the clock whenever that missed extra point happens and you get the kickoff or whatever, and then you run the whole clock out. I mean, and
that felt so good after, years of it being done to you.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to
it's
go,
a helpless feeling.
It is a helpless feeling, and to go
or the greatest
on someone else,
or the greatest feeling. Yeah. And then you line up in victory formation with, I don't know, a minute, 12 or minute and a half left. Yeah, but it was awesome. I mean, in credit, this group has taken a lot. People need to start. It's far too often people kind of like knock the offensive line,
mm-hmm.
or and myself included. Like, hey, they're not this, they're not that. I mean, they deserve some credit here for, and so does Tahj. I mean, I don't want to take anything from Tahj Brooks, because a lot of these are, he just won't go down. And so, yeah, that group deserves a lot of credit, because everybody in the stadium knew exactly where it was going, who was getting it, and yet UCF just couldn't do anything about it. And that is wildly refreshing and fascinating. And oh man, it tastes good. Winning is fun, man. That's just all there is to it.
It is fun.
Winning is fun.
No matter what variety, how it comes.
Half a point, 1 point. Because you look up and all of a sudden now, remember all the one score game talk from last year and then early this year. Now you look up, you've won 3 in November. They've all been by 1 score.
That's right.
And I think, it's looked a little bit different at times, and you're having to make it look a little bit different at times because of your situation. But I just thought in Lawrence last week and then in Lubbock over the weekend, man, it's just it's just you're grinding out, but you're finding ways to win. Whereas kind of before it was like we just couldn't figure out a way to win. Now all of a sudden, you're because what's Joey now? You mentioned the 10-3 at home, but you're also 6-1 in November.
Yep, with on a 6-game winning streak too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You have now back-to-back conference winning records, which hasn't happened around here since 2008 and 2009, I believe.
Correct.
And those have been hard to come by. Even when you were, when Mike had it rolling, I guess in terms of going to bowl games every year, there was some, 4 and 5s and 3 and 6s in the in the conference mixed in there, or I don't guess it was 3 and 6, but maybe 4 and 4, and because you were playing 8 conference games at the time, and 3 and 5 is what I meant to say. Sorry, but anyway, I think I don't want to gloss over that either, because as you look for reasons to look for progress or feel optimistic, I mean, there's some things here, and then 3 bowl games in a row.
That hasn't happened since 08 through 010. I mean,
correct.
08 through 10. Yep.
Yeah. You've kind of, maybe you're on the other side of this decade of just struggling and just not being very good. And now you've got some stability and all those things. So that part, I thoroughly thumbs up.
I do really like Coach McGuire's talked about it, that's your baseline. You've got to have baseline for a program. That your baseline is, and that's what it was for Mike Leach, right? I mean, as much as we talk about the glory years of Mike Leach, it wasn't all perfect. You didn't have all 2008 seasons, but the fact that you got to a bowl game every single season under Mike Leach, and you knew that was the floor for your program, that's what was great about it. It's like your bad year, you're still making a bowl game. So if that is your bad year under Joey McGuire, then that's pretty satisfying for this fan base. Now, you got some heights you want to reach and some goals, and hopefully you can do that in the future. But yeah, I think I really like hearing Joey McGuire say that out loud, is that your floor for your program is making a bowl game, and they set that expectation early, and you've reached it 2 years in a row. So quite a few football questions.
I mean,
go ahead.
Row, and Joey was at the one 2 years ago in Memphis, but he made sure to point that out, and thanks Sonny Cumbie for that.
Sure.
To the Liberty Bowl game, ironically, the win over Mike Leach, but it was like kind of like that's the standard. We continue to build on it, and again, do you wish you were playing in Arlington the first weekend in December? Absolutely. Was that the goal? Absolutely. Did you fall short? Yes. There are reasons for that. Some people will buy into those and go, "Hey, man, I get it." Other people are like, "Oh, well, you need to find other ways to do it." This and that. Either way, I hope everybody understands that their goal wasn't to just barely get bowl eligible and all those things, but still, it is progress, because I think people kind of forget how much you've struggled around here for a decade ish. And it hadn't been a lot of fun at times. And there's been a lot of times where you're sitting at home around. I when we do what we do, you have a lot of basketball and football going on around the holidays. And there were several years where I was just at home around Christmas time and it was uninterrupted. And you're like, man, what do I do with these extra few days? And all that, but it's nice to have another game to play. And I know people have asked too, and I don't want to get into too many details. I probably should let Joey McGuire kind of explain things, but regardless of when signing day is, And regardless of when your bowl game is, these early enrollees can still practice much earlier than when signing day is. I'll let Joey kind of explain some of the minutia there. I've been able to clarify that. And so, yeah, just because they can't sign until, what is it, like the 17th or the 20th, or I can't remember. If you play on the 23rd or if you play on the 16th or whatever it is, they would be able to practice, I think, far earlier than that. So anyway, I'll just leave that. I'll leave that there.
Level, quite a few questions regarding football. We'll finish up with some basketball in a moment as the Red Raiders will head to the Bahamas, but I want to get to a lot of these football questions. First one is from Jason, asks, what is the level of injury for Hutchings and Rabbits? Is there any chance we see them against Texas?
I think there's a chance you see both. Yes. I think, Rabbit took a knee to the groin. I think they try to get it loosened up. It's going to be a bit tricky. I think he'll have to spend a lot of time with treatment. That's a tricky injury. And if they feel like he can't, because this is a bad team to try to put someone that's less than 100% on the back end, because I think Texas is like something like top 10 in the country in the yards after catch, with Sanders and Worthy and various Wigington. Yeah. But they've just got a lot of juice and they make a lot of big plays, explosives and things like that. So we'll see. I think there was some concern for Jalen and his knee. I think it's okay. He was on the sideline in his letter jacket last night, kind of coaching, and he seemed to be survived the scare. I just don't think they wanted to chance it. So they'll kind of see where that's at. But I think there's a good probability of both of them. I'll just keep going here. Bryce Ramirez should play. Tyler Owens should play. Miles Price should play. Jacob Rodriguez will not. So mark that down. That one stings because he led you in tackles over the weekend with 12. Love that kid as a player. I mean, gosh dang, is he good at football. But I think for that very reason is why he won't play this weekend, because you're trying to preserve his career here and extend it instead of, and I don't want to say in a meaningless game, because it's not. No. Anytime you play these guys, it's not, but you have to weigh it out and
big picture stuff.
Yeah. It's just, and I think you're trying to do right by the kid. And I think this is maybe Jacob's preference too, that he would like to be able to have multiple years left here. Is there any other? Mason Tharp was obviously back. If there's any other,
looked good.
Yeah. Malik Dunlap had a finger pointing the wrong way last night early in that game. I think they got that fixed. He was back in there with tape around it. So if I've missed anybody else, let me know. But I think that's kind of the gist, at least that I'm aware of. But there's always things that happen in the middle of a week or whatever, or man, we just couldn't get him right. Steve Linton.
Yeah, I was about to say Linton's
they're hopeful. They're hopeful that he will be back this week too. I think they thought he was maybe a third down specialist or could be versus Central Florida, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah. So. All right. More questions from the audience on Twitter. This one's from Preston, our South Texas ambassador. What was Tahj Brooks' workout program in the offseason to be so durable and be able to stay healthy despite so many carries?
Well, there's no secret sauce here, but I think what you've seen with Tahj over the last couple of years is that, like, when you talk to him in August, and Kenny Perry, to Kenny Perry's credit, he really tried to tell everybody that would listen. I don't know if they were going to ever major in the run game like they ultimately did, or if that was, the plan. It's worked out that way. But Kenny Perry was trying to tell everybody that would listen, dude, there's nothing this kid can't do. There's just nothing that he can't do. But when you talk to Tahj in August, you could, because Joey's real big on act like a pro. And what he means by that is, it's not just showing up for practice. It's not just practicing hard, but it's how you handle your business away from the building and like what you do in class. How do you attack your studies? But it's also, because variety of them will talk to you about that. Like it's do I get enough sleep? What am I putting in my body? Do I stay hydrated all the time to avoid cramping and things? Am I eating enough beet juice drinking enough, whatever, before these altitude games. I mean, it's all those things. And Tahj, we had long talks about that in August and some of the media stuff, and he will just kind of go down the list. And so you knew that he had taken everything very seriously, and he was treating this season like a professional, because that's what it takes. It's the margin for error gets smaller and smaller and smaller the more you play and the older you get and the higher level that you play in, because everybody's trying to gain the smallest advantage that they can.
Right.
Whether it's speed or your weight or how you handle the weight room or your nutrition or your sleep or whatever it may be. And I think Tahj took that to heart. And I think you could just tell he's a very matured football player. And now he's entered himself into an elite category of conversation with your Hans Bards, your Torian Hendersons, your DeAndre Washingtons.
Yeah.
Your Bam Morris's is one of the elite running backs that's ever come through here, because it's a different era. I think they do different things now with the running backs, and the schemes are different and all those things. But for him to be a feature running back in 2023 and excel the way he did is just, I mean, because where would you have been without him and that O-line and all that? I mean, it would have been rough sledding, especially when you consider all the QB issues that you've dealt with. So
I mean, he's led the nation, in missed tackles, and only added to that on Saturday night a whole lot. Where would you be without him? It would be a scary place. And Behren said it on the coaches show on Thursday night on Double T 97.3. He said, "Hey, I'm in there for my shoulder injury in the trainer's room all the time. Tahj is in there every single day that I am, just to get his body healthy. Just to, like, he's not that he's injured. He's just trying to do everything he can to be healthy for treatment." So, yeah, I think you're right. He's treated his body, and that's how a running back has to, because if you want to be a running back and have any sort of longevity in today's game, you've got to take it extremely serious. And that's a guy who has played himself into a draft pick, I would guess, coming up here in a few months in the NFL draft. But he's been a ton of fun to watch. This one from Zach. Chris, you mentioned that Micah Hudson and others are enrolling early can practice for a bowl game. Do you know how early they can come to Lubbock and start with us?
Yeah, I'll let the head coach kind of speak to how some of that works. I think they've done a lot of background work and a lot of compliance work and a lot of, all these different things. So I'm not going to speak in absolutes on a certain day, but I just know that they don't have to wait till signing day if they're an early enrollee, to be able to participate with the team and all that. I think that there's been a lot of legwork behind the scenes that's been done and this and that. I think those guys will be here sooner than later. So I'll just leave that, open to interpretation, but I think Joey will, that's something that Coach McGuire will probably speak about and all those things at some point soon. So, but yeah, the answer is yes. You don't have to, because I think the concern was, well, what if you play a bowl game before Christmas and the signing date is just like right before that? All this that we've talked about, but I mean, the way it's been explained to me is that is not the case. They can be here much, much earlier than that. So anyway, we'll see.
Kelly asks another question along those lines. Outside of Hammond and Hudson, who excites you the most in this upcoming class?
Well, I mean, yeah, Micah Hudson is the headliner. I think Will Hammond is obviously going to get a lot of notoriety, although ideally you don't want him to have to play for a while. I don't know. Peyton Morgan, I think, has a chance to be really good for you, a safety that I think is, that's probably where I'd go. I think he's one of the top safeties in Texas and in this part of the country.
Yeah.
I think that there's, but it really may come down to like your big people. The problem is they had a big Polynesian kid from Hutchinson Community College that weighs about 350 in over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he was a previous Oklahoma commit. And I think that would shoot to the top of the list if you were able to get somebody like him, because I think you could expect him to play soon and right away kind of thing. So, you need as many quality big people as you can.
Yeah, I'll add one more. And Jacoby Williams he's had a pretty decent fall. He's a running back at a smaller school. What is it, Beckville? I
Yeah,
think
and
it
I think
is.
they've taken him I think he's kind of being treated as like an athlete. I don't know if he's necessarily going to stick at running back. He is
Mhm.
smaller. And along those lines, I think a guy like Cameron Dickey could
Yeah,
play fairly early for you because see, he doesn't lack size. He's closer to 5'10", about 200.
yeah,
And I think Williams is like a speed scat, just kind of do a little bit of everything
yeah.
type guy. But yeah, you've got to, as we've learned, like with Cameron,
Oh
you've
yeah,
got to be able to do all the things that come with, playing running back. And it's trickier for those, even if you are fast and all that, if you're a specialty running back. But
no
yeah,
doubt,
he has got some juice for sure. And
no
that's
doubt.
what
Yeah,
you definitely need.
yeah. I think you had three different players on the Dave Campbell's the semifinalist list or whatever for the Mr. Football of the year, and Williams along with Hammond and Hudson all made that finalist list, which is pretty cool. Let's see, is this one's from Paolo. Is this team going to be content with bowl eligibility and not show up in Austin? I heard a lot of post-game comments that the pressure is off, and that makes me think that they'll be fine with the minimum.
Yeah, that's how we'll approach it. Yeah.
Well, I think if you've heard those post-game comments, it may have been people not
I didn't hear anybody
in.
say the pressure is off. I didn't
Oh,
hear
I think Brian
anybody's.
Jensen said it. If that's exactly what they're talking about, the pressure of making a bowl game is off. But
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think there's
Yeah.
any sort of mindset inside that locker room like
Oh,
that.
yeah. I didn't. Yeah, I didn't
And
hear any of that from the head coach or the players that spoke to the media or anything like that. Yeah, no.
if that longhorn on the helmet or that dirty orange color doesn't fire you up, then I
Yeah.
mean,
And you are about to play the toughest game that you've played all year. I mean, considering where it is, and
yeah,
I don't know if Texas is better than Oregon on a neutral field. I bet Texas would be a, I don't know, within a 2 or 3 point spread of. So anyway, if it wasn't Oregon, it would be Texas being your toughest opponent. But this one's on the road, and they've got NFL talent at wide receiver and at tight end and at offensive line, defensive line, at quarterback. So yeah,
but
and you're a 14-point dog, I
yeah,
think, in this one.
14-point dog as we sit here early in the week in
Yeah.
this. I think, yeah, I mean that's exactly speaks to what you just said, that it's the toughest game. This is crazy, but Vegas has had Tech as an underdog only 3 games this whole year. 3 games. Also shows that some disappointment there, but the other 2 games,
Kansas, Oregon.
Yep. And this one. Sorry, I mean this one.
Oh, okay.
Three including this one.
Ones. Yeah, okay.
No, 3 total with
Okay.
this one. You were only 3-point dogs in both of those other 2 games.
Yeah.
This one, 14 points. It definitely speaks to this is going to be the toughest matchup that you've had all year. That being said, that's still a pretty big number. This Texas team is going to be extremely motivated. They have not just a Big 12 title to play for. They have a college football playoff spot still possible out there. And your commissioner had some words for him before the season started. So it feels like Texas will not be lacking in motivation at all for this one. And you're probably going to get the best shot from those guys on the way out.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how much that Brett Yormark's commentary, how much that's a thing this week. It has a chance to be a major thing, a minor thing.
I've already seen it posted once.
Something that everybody talks about. Yeah, I mean, I think, when it happened, I think Steve Sarkisian, he kind of used it initially. I'm sure that'll get brought back up.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me kind of hopes it does, because I think I'll just be interested to see how the officiating is in this game, because when that was part of the commentary, is that Well, if the commissioner he's rooting for a team, I mean, surely we're going to get hosed on the officials, but I kind of like that to be like a mind game. That
I
you're
would love
playing.
that. Yeah, I mean, if they're already going into it thinking they're going to get screwed by the officials,
I know. I just hope the officials don't overcompensate, or anything either, because I could see that too. Because
I can definitely see that.
I've seen a lot of overcompensation.
Yeah.
Over the years, although any Texas fan claiming officiating or whatever is laughable after you saw that spot that they benefited from against the University of Houston.
Yeah.
And in late September, I guess it was, when there was a fourth down conversion that absolutely was, and then was not. And then Houston ends up not converting that fourth down. I should say it should have been a move the chains, and then Texas wins a close one. So anyway, whatever. I digress.
I always love that one. All right, I got a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap with some basketball. Bowls. Kelly wants to know what bowls could we possibly land in? What are the possibilities out there right now?
If you don't win this Friday night, I think more than likely it is either Shreveport on December the 16th or Fort Worth on December the 23rd. Those are Saturdays. I think what ESPN has done is they've loaded up those 2 Saturdays before Christmas and like given each slots to national television, as ESPN owns most of these games.
Yep.
And then it's after Christmas, the week after, is when you start seeing all those games either in the day or nighttime, and all that is. But I think Independence Bowl and Shreveport are the Armed Forces. If you don't win Friday night, if you do win Friday night, I think that at that point you start talking about Phoenix on December the 26th, or you start talking about Memphis again in the Liberty Bowl, because that's the difference between a 5-4 conference record
and 6
versus a 6-3 conference record, and being 6-6 and 7-5. But yeah, I just don't know. And then some of this is going to factor in on, does Texas actually make it to the college football playoff?
Yep.
If so, everybody kind of moves up a notch. If not, then it, there's a kind of a log jam at the back end of this deal. And then, and both but I kind of, that's what I think is either Fort Worth or Shreveport. If you don't win, and if you do win, it could still be one of those, but you could also move into like a Memphis, Tennessee or Phoenix, Arizona scenario.
Yeah, most likely Texas Tech is going to, regardless of what happens Saturday, and
I think
Friday, pardon me, you're going to finish somewhere around the 7th or 8th place range in the league.
And I mean, if you do end up in Shreveport or Fort Worth on Saturdays, I mean, on one of those Saturdays, Shreveport is about 2 hours outside of Dallas. I think, obviously being in Fort Worth, there'd be obviously an opportunity to have a lot of fans there and spend a little time before the holiday gets going, if you want to go watch a little football in your own backyard kind of thing. And so
I mean, they're not the sexiest.
Would be attractive to both of those, because I think you could potentially sell some tickets and get a crowd and all those things from the Metroplex.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the sexiest bowl games, but you could definitely get fans there, much like you did to Houston last year, and have a pretty good crowd. Okay, Texas Tech basketball moved to 3-0 this past week. Lady Raiders also got to 4-0. Both teams are going on their Thanksgiving tournaments. The Red Raiders going to the Bahamas level. But this is a Villanova team that they'll face first that has also lost a game at Penn that people were not quite expecting them to lose. So what's the expectation for this week in the Bahamas?
Well, I mean, I think Grant's his expectation is to go compete, and you're not there to enjoy the scenery or the weather or whatever it may be. I mean, you're going, with a purpose. It's what he talked to me about after they had beaten
Corpus Christi.
A&M Corpus Christi. I'm getting all the A&Ms mixed up because it was A&M Commerce, and then but bottom line is, you're not going to be able to do that unless you shoot the ball better. But I think they're grinding right now. figuring out who they are. That's going to be a process that's going to last a bit. I think you've realized now that you're not near as deep as you would have hoped that you would be, at least at this stage.
Not you got unless, 7 guys that are really playing at this point?
Yeah, and I think you're searching. I mean, is that 8th or 9th guy? I mean, because Robert Jennings has gotten spot minutes. EY has gotten some spot minutes. Kerwin Walton's gotten some spot minutes. DeMarion Williams really hasn't factored in much. It appears you may be leaning toward redshirting Drew Steffi and Kyron Lindsey. I don't know if I've missed anybody else there, but yeah, it's those starters, and then Chance McMillan and Lamar Washington have been kind of the bulk. Robert Jennings and EY will not redshirt. They'll continue to get opportunities just because you need some sort of size behind Warren Washington. And so, but yeah, you've got to try to shoot the ball a bit better. And you got good looks. I think they'll start to fall and things like that. But right now you're just kind of grinding away at it a little bit. Your defense is having to help you. And, I thought, one game it was the parade to the free throw line. You won it that way. The exhibition versus A&M, you poured in 14 threes. Sometimes it's been an 18-2 run to finish the game versus San Jose State, where it's just a grind, and then the building and you make a few plays, it kind of cracks the opponent a little bit. That's what also happened against A&M Corpus Christi as well. Joe Toussaint's been a big reason for some of those late game runs and things like that, as he kind of makes a few plays, toughness plays. But yeah, your expectation is that, you can go compete with Villanova. This isn't Jay Wright's Villanova Wildcats or the national championship Villanova Wildcat program anymore. They're still very good. I think they were ranked prior to the Penn game. They were ranked in the top 25. None of these are going to be easy. Win or lose, you'll play either North Carolina or Northern Iowa on Thanksgiving Day at either. I think it's that's either like at 11 or 1:30. I think, unless my time zones are off. I can't remember. If you win or lose, if you play earlier or later, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then you've got Louisville and Memphis and I'm trying to remember Michigan. I mean, the other side of the bracket. It's loaded. These are all high quality RPI or net ranking opportunities here. So any wins that you get are to be celebrated. You just don't want to come back being like a 0-3 or 1-2 type team. But I think if you can get a couple of wins, man, I would say it's a wild success.
Yeah, you're right. It's 11 or 4 o'clock will be your two options. 11 o'clock or 4 o'clock on the two games. If you win, 11. If you lose, it'll be 4 o'clock on Thanksgiving Day. But yeah, you got some opportunity in front of you. I think it's really hard to judge anything up to this point with this basketball team, and this is your first real chance to judge and get a real feel for this team in these few games in the Bahamas. So it'll be interesting. But we'll look at that. We're already out of time, so. Hey,
seriously, I hope you and I will be working and traveling on that day, but I hope everybody gets some quality time with their family. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you to Cantex Roofing for sponsoring this show. I saw a sign in the yard on my street. I know they do good work with that hailstorm back in May and June. A lot of roof replacements in my neck of the woods. So Cantex Roofing, shout out to you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy some downtime with your family. Hopefully all the football goes well.
Yep.
And we'll see what the Red Raiders can do in Austin on Friday night, and what the Red Raiders can do in the Bahamas. And shout out to Tom Stone's team for having a phenomenal season.
Absolutely.
Made it to the third round. Ludwig Aberg, Josh Young, Pat Mahomes, all those people we've seen in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, man.
Phenomenal. All right.
So much fun.
I'll quit talking. See you.
Hey, we're done. We'll do this again after the Texas game. Talk to you then, Level. That is Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.